So hi and hello. Welcome to our channel named Elko Exploration. My name is Samir. Now in today's lecture we are going to solve a problem that how to generate all the valid parentheses, okay, that includes these two brackets, okay. So this is a basically a LeetCode problem, okay. The problem number is 22. You can take a look on the LeetCode website, okay. Now the thing is that here let's say if the value of n is 1, okay, so in the question only n will be given. Now we have to generate the parenthesis, okay, where the count of opening bracket is 1 and the closing bracket is also 1, okay. So if you take a look at the valid, it will be simply this only, right, and the invalid will be this, okay. So we don't have to generate this one, okay, we have to generate this one, okay. Now if you take a look when n is equals to 2, so basically the number of parentheses that will be generated will be almost 16, okay. But since we want to return only the valid one, so due to that it will be either this, okay, I believe, yeah, that's a 2 one, okay. And similarly if the value of n is 3, then we have to generate all the kind of valid parentheses, okay. Now let's say that how we can solve this problem. Now if we have empty string, okay, at the start, and here the value of n is 2, okay, so in this case 2 opening and 2 closing brackets should be there. If you start it, okay, so at one side the bracket should be starting with opening, and on the other side the bracket can be start with closing, okay. We will be dealing this thing later, okay, but let's explore this one, okay. Now right now the string that we generated here is one opening bracket, okay. Again we will be doing the bifurcation in which here it is a opening and here this is a closing, okay. Now this is a string, so here we have two opening brackets and here we have one opening and one closing, okay. So this is existing string. If we append this closing, so this we will be getting this one, okay. Again let's move forward, one opening and one closing, okay. So here two opening brackets, with this one it will be three opening brackets, okay. And again here two opening brackets with one closing brackets. If we do the bifurcation of this, it will be one opening, one closing and one opening, okay. And here one opening, one closing and one closing, okay. Now if we observe, okay, since here the value of n is 2, okay, we know that the number of opening parentheses and the closing parentheses will be 2 only, okay. But here we do see that number of opening parentheses is 3, okay, so which is not valid. So I'll simply not explore this one, okay. Coming to this, okay, I do see that it is one opening, one, sorry, two opening and one closing, so it might end up with one closing as well, okay. So that can be valid, so I need to explore this one. So let's explore this one opening, one closing, so opening, opening, closing and opening, okay. And your opening, closing and closing. Now if you observe this one, okay, I do see that, see here also we can see that number of opening parentheses is 3, 1 2 and 3, so this is also not valid. Now coming back to this one, I do see that it's perfectly a valid parenthesis, right? So this is allowed, okay. Now let's explore this one, opening, closing, opening, close, opening, right? And this will be opening, closing, opening and then closing again, okay. This is for opening, this is for closing, okay. Here if you observe, here we can see that, see, opening, so obviously this is not a valid one, okay. And coming to the next one, I do see that opening, closing, so perfectly this is a valid one, right? So this is valid. Now let's explore the next one. This will be for opening, and this will be for closing. Okay, so here opening, closing, closing, and opening. Sorry, yeah, and this will be opening, closing, closing, and then closing. Okay, we can obviously see that this is not a valid, right? Because opening, here we can obviously see that this is not valid. Okay, not this is, right? Because the closing parameters, sorry, the closing parameters are 3. Okay, now coming back to this one. Okay, so here the generated string would be one closing bracket. So we can simply see that none of the parentheses will start with the closing, right? So we'll not explore this one. Okay, now by generating all the valid parentheses over here, okay, we can do one observation, sorry, we can do multiple observations. Why it is failing? Okay, let's explore this one first. So the first would be that if we see that this one only, okay, none of the parentheses should be starting with the closing one. Okay, if it is starting with closing bracket or parenthesis. Okay, the second observation would be, see, this is failing and this is also failing. Okay, by looking at this two, okay, we do see that the number of closing brackets are greater than the number of opening brackets. Okay, so at that time this will fail. If number of closing is greater than number of opening brackets. Okay, the third observation would be this one. Okay, here we can see that if the number of opening brackets are greater than 2. Okay, why 2? Because the here the value of n is 2. Okay, so number of opening is greater than 2, at this time this will also fail. Okay, so the conclusion would be, observing this 2, okay, number of closing should be lesser than or equals to number of opening. Okay, and this number of opening should be lesser than or equals to 2, or let's say n. Okay, so this is 2 observation. Okay, now with the help of this only we have to design an algorithm. So let's name it as valid. Here, as I said, that they will be passing the value of n. So n, and since we want to generate a string, so str, here it will be the open brackets and close brackets. Okay, so we will be keeping the count of this. Now the first, since we are, as I said, that we are actually learning the recursion. Okay, so in one of the shots only I actually seen that why the base case is very important. Okay, so here the base case would be that if the value of n, if the string dot length is equals to 2n. Okay, and number of opening brackets is equals to number of closing. So here in this case we got our valid string. So either you can store that valid string into an array list, okay, or an array, or you can simply print it. So here I'm going in a simpler way, I'm just printing it. Okay, and then return. So this would be the base case. Okay, now coming back to the observation, if my opening bracket is lesser than n, okay, I'm talking about this. Okay, if my opening bracket is lesser than n, then I can simply add one more opening bracket. Okay, so this is what I'm talking about. If my number of opening bracket is lesser than n, okay, here in this case it is not lesser than n, okay, it is equals to, so due to that we are not adding it. Okay, but here in this case, if I go here, the number of opening bracket is 1, so due to that only I am adding it one more opening bracket. Okay, so here in this case I can add it. So again I will be calling the valid function in which n will be the same. Str, I will be going to append it. Okay, so I have appended the one opening bracket. Since I'm appending the one opening bracket, so this will be open plus 1 and closing will be as it is. Okay, so this is the first one. Okay, and you might say that we will be doing else. No, see, because since we are generating one by one, okay, so at every step we are giving a chance adding the opening brackets, and after that also we are going to explore the closing one as well. Okay, so for adding the closing bracket, what would be the condition? It should be that if the closing is lesser than open, if the number of closing bracket is lesser than opening, okay, at that time we will be calling the valid function, okay, by passing n str plus, this will be the closing bracket, open will be as it is, but since I'm adding one closing bracket, okay, so close plus 1, and that's it, we are done. Okay, so let me explain this one again. Okay, if the number of closing bracket are lesser than the opening brackets, then we can add one more closing bracket. Okay, here we can see that the number of closing bracket is just one. Okay, so due to that I can add it. Here also we can see that here the number of opening bracket is 0 and the number of closing brackets is 1. Okay, so due to that we are not exploring this path. Okay, so now I hope you got this. So you can just comment it down that what would be the time complexity and the space complexity. Okay, I'll uh, okay, so that's it from my side, and this was the almost the last video, okay, in the recursion series. Now in the next lecture I will be starting the binary search series. Okay, okay then, so thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next video. Till then, keep practicing.